Okay, so this is my review for Deathstalkers 3 and the Words from Hell. I reviewed the first two, so I figured I might as well do this one too. Alright. The film takes place in a fantasy setting, opens at a festival featuring Deathstalker and the Nicias. Deathstalker once saved Nicias, and the two go from village to village obtaining money by Nicias foretelling the future and showing his magic. Okay. So basically, there's an evil wizard, Troxartes. He's looking for a gem or something. This gem connects with another gem he has, and he can find a ancient city, full of gold and valuables and all that. Okay, so of course, Deathstalker ends up getting this other gem or ruby or whatever, and the wizard wants it, so they end up fighting. That's basically the storyline for the most part, the basic storyline. I don't want to give away too much if you haven't watched it and you plan to watch it. So, let me get the pros and cons of this movie. Alright. The pros of this film, I can't really think of any. Okay. The only thing I can actually say that's good about this movie, if there's one little scene where there's a thick white chick with big titties, and those titties, you get to see them, but no bra on. And the movie ends. The movie eventually ends. That's it. Oh, that's like an attractive woman or two in the picture. That's it. That's all I can tell you that's good about this movie. So let me get to the cons. All right. And the problems I have with this movie. First of all, they replaced the lead actor. They did this with the other Deathstalker movie. They did it with the second movie. But that guy in the second movie, he wasn't bad. I still liked him. This dude here, this is like the worst Deathstalker, period. Okay? I think it's John Allen Nelson. His line delivery is bad. He just, I don't know, he's a scrawny little dude. He's the worst Deathstalker, period. Alright. Fighting in the movie. The other two Deathstalkers at least had some pretty good fighting scenes. This movie here doesn't really have much fighting. The fighting here is horrible. This is the worst fighting in any of the Deathstalker films, and some of the worst fighting I've seen in any of these type of movies. Period. Like most of the fact is, early on in the movie, he doesn't even fight people. He just throws knives at them. Okay. And I think they did that because they knew this guy was not good at fighting with a sword. Okay. Later on in the picture, he gets into some sword fights, and they're horrible. Just the worst in the series. None of the characters are really interesting or likable. In the first movie and the second movie, you still had a few likable characters. There's nobody here interesting. All right. The villain that he's fighting, Troxartes or whatever his name is, he's the worst wizard that I've ever seen. Like, first movie, the evil wizard he had a lot of powers. Okay, he had some interesting powers. The second movie, the main villain actually had some interesting powers. He could fight. He actually was beating Deathstalker in a hand-to-hand combat fight. This dude is like the most interesting one. He's boring, uninteresting. And he doesn't even do anything. Like, he does nothing in this movie. Like, he really doesn't use his sorcery. You don't see him use his sorcery too much. Another thing, like the soundtracks. Oh man, the soundtracks from the first two movies was excellent. The first movie has an epic soundtrack. Okay. The second movie is more of a comedy type picture, but I still love the soundtrack for the second movie. The music here, I can't even remember it. It's like once you cut it off, you won't remember it. It was really bad. There's nothing about this movie that's actually good. I can't, besides an attractive woman or two with some brief nudity with some big white titties. That's it. That's all. I can't actually come up with anything good about this movie. It's boring, uninteresting. No fighting. A lame soundtrack. Main villain is lame. And then, it really kind of I thought was odd. This movie actually briefly mentions something from the second movie. Okay. And he said, "Oh, what is it with me? I'm always running into the princesses." So he's referencing the princess in the second movie. If you're gonna do that, explain to me why Deathstalker it has left. Because at the end of the second movie, he basically marries her and becomes like her king. So he actually leaves from being married to this hot princess with king to go run around villages making money with this dude. I wouldn't even mention anything from the second movie because it doesn't make why would you do that? Okay, why would you leave a hot princess from that who married you and you're king over her kingdom to go walk around with a crusty old wizard and try and make scrap money playing magical games, doing little magic tricks? Don't make any sense. It ain't no sense to me, man. This is, like I said, it's the worst of the Deathstalker movies. And I'm trying really hard to come up with something that was interesting. Oh, there was one thing that was interesting. That this wizard was bringing back warriors that Deathstalker had killed, and he had their souls in some kind of jar or container or something. That was actually an interesting plot point, but they really didn't do anything with it. Nothing really was interesting done with it. Yeah, man, this movie, don't waste your time. Or you could watch it just to see how bad it is. Honestly, I had actually tracked this movie down and found out you could buy it. They have it for sale on VHS. And I'm glad I did not pay for it. I'm watching it on YouTube. And I'm so glad I didn't pay any money for this movie. Because I threw away, $67 plus shipping and handling. But yeah, Deathstalker 3, Warriors from Hell, the worst picture in the series, one of the worst type of movies, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life, honestly. It's got to be in the top 20, top 30 worst movies I've ever seen. The movie is directed by some gentleman named Alexander Corona. I imagine that making this crappy movie was so bad that they must have been drinking Corona beer. Man, this movie sucks. They had to be drinking all type of Corona to get through this movie, man. I honestly had to force myself to watch this movie. I had to literally force myself to watch it. That's how bad it is. If you're a fan of Deathstalker and you like the other two pictures, you could just watch it if you're curious about it. Otherwise, I would skip it. Okay, there's really nothing. There's nothing interesting about it. I mean, if you just want to see some brief nakedness, some big white titties and an attractive woman or two, you could actually watch pornography and get that, free. Get that free. It would be a better and more enjoyable experience. But I mean, either way it goes, man, I wouldn't watch it. I can't recommend it. If you just want to see a horrible movie that sucks, then go ahead. That's it. That's my thoughts.